This could save society. So Trump appears to be ready to actually completely do away with the income tax, and this could actually have major ramifications for society going forward. Today's video comes from the Snyder Reports. His channel will be linked in the description of the video so that you can go check him out and support him. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand the implication of Trump now attempting to fully end the income tax as well as firing almost 10,000 IRS agents. Guys, go and follow us over on Rumble. Things are not so great on this platform for us. So to ensure that you never lose access to my content, go ahead and follow me over on Rumble. Our Rumble is linked in the description of the video. And now let's just go ahead and jump into the video after a message from Angry's Crypto Academy. You guys already know what's happening. You know that hard times are here. They have arrived. The ATMs are going to stop working. The banks are going to chain the doors. Protect your wealth and safeguard your future with crypto. Angry's Crypto Academy will teach you how to buy, sell, trade, and invest in crypto. We'll tell you exactly which coins will mint you millionaires and how to spot potential coins to invest in. Don't miss out. The Academy is linked in the description of the video. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
Well, it just happened. President Trump is now trying to abolish the IRS. We now know that more than 6,000 IRS employees have been fired just as of today. At the same time, we are going through the IRS's busy season, but at the same time, we're now hearing that Doge could potentially issue a refund check of maybe $5,000 or more to 79 million American households. And again, all this is happening as President Trump is just 1 month in to his presidency. So I'm gonna break down what's going on, what this could mean for you and I moving forward, but why this is such big news at this time. So again, I'll break all this down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So a crazy thing is happening right now. Look at this. It says Trump wants to abolish the IRS and replace it with tariffs. There is something called the Internal Revenue Service. That's the IRS. Well, President Trump, just a few weeks ago, he announced something called the External Revenue Service, where instead of taxing the American people, we're charging tariffs and taxes and fees and duties to other countries to import their products here into the greatest economy in the entire world. Now, here's where things are getting interesting. President Trump has now fired 6,700 IRS employees. Look at this. It says the IRS lays off 6,700 employees, torpedoing Democratic enforcement boost. Now, under the IRA, this is what they call the Inflation Reduction Act, and this passed a couple years ago. Under this bill, there was supposed to be $80 billion that was going to go to the IRS to hire up to 88,000 new IRS agents. Well, it actually never happened. According to reports, that what we are seeing is that the IRS, who has about 100,000 people working for them, well, this is actually just going to see a decrease of agents and employees. The reason why this is such a big deal is because the Biden administration said that by hiring 88,000 new IRS agents, they were going to go after the wealthy. They were going to recoup money that was lost. They were going to go after what they called tax cheats. Now, that essentially didn't happen. They never hired people. They didn't hire the amount of people that they said they were going to hire. Never did it. Now, they hired some, but not even close to 88,000. And that's why some are saying, well, we need to pull this money back. Republicans have already clawed back a decent amount of money, but not enough. Here's where things are getting interesting. And I've shown this multiple times over the past several days. According to reports, President Trump and Doge are potentially going to include a 20% rebate back to the American people based off the savings that Doge is able to acquire. Here's what I mean. Right now, President Trump wants to see about $2 trillion in cuts to federal spending. Okay, this is big. The reason why this is so big is because if we can cut $2 trillion, they are saying that they would actually give back 20% to the American people. That would be about $5,000 per household. Now, how does this tie into President Trump ready to end taxes and actually firing thousands of IRS agents? Well, here's how it works. What we are now hearing is that, or what we're seeing is that the American people are very upset. They're upset at the fact that we've had all this money go out to different agencies and programs and states, and the money just sat there. Even during the pandemic, there was a deadline that the money had to be spent or else it would go back to the federal government.
Now, something I should point out regarding the $5,000 dividend that Dodge is talking about is that, and I actually learned this from the Clearwater Value Tax channel. You can check them out. Something intriguing. This would actually only include, it would leave out about something like one third of Americans. So only around 79 million households would actually get the $5,000 rebate or $5,000 dividend that would be used, would come from a portion of the funds that are being saved by Dodge. Low income earners would, a lot of low income earners would actually not get the rebate. The reason why is because many of them don't actually pay taxes. Now, being self-employed, being someone who does pay taxes, this actually works out quite interesting for me because I would end up qualifying for said rebate. But for someone who does not pay any taxes, for someone who is a low income earner and they actually end up getting things back. For example, like, a lot of women, they have multiple kids, so they end up getting back the child care credit and they get back way more money than they paid in taxes. In fact, most they usually just end up paying almost next to nothing. So they get back everything that they paid and then some. They would not qualify for that $5,000 rebate. It would go to people like me. It would go to business owners. It would go to people who actually are professionals. So if you work for a company, you're actually they're taking a third of your salary. You would be the person getting that back. Also, don't forget that Trump, evidently, this is the conversation being had, and it does make sense when it comes to Project 2025. They want to do away with the child tax care credit to some degree, not in the sense that they're going to eliminate it, but basically the parent who pays child support would be the parent who would receive that credit. So, for example, if you have a bunch of kids with someone and you're paying child support, then you're going to be the one that gets that tax credit. If that ends up happening, who knows? But let's be very clear that Project 2025 is about restoring the family. And to restore the family, obviously they want to change the single motherhood culture. And to change the single motherhood culture, you have to incentivize men to be a part of the family unit again, and you have to make the single mother lifestyle or the single household lifestyle where you only have the woman and the child, and the man subsidizes that as on less attractive in Western society. And a large part of that would be to decentivize it by removing the tax credit and also making it much more difficult for women to use child support the way that they would choose to. What does this mean? So, for example, that money would end up going, whatever money women would get for child support, that money would go onto a card, just like EBT, and they would not be able to use that money for just anything. So they're talking about reforming, for example, the food benefit system, SNAP, like food stamps, and people would not be able to purchase certain foods with food stamps anymore, like Oreos and so forth. They would only be able to purchase, foods that are healthier, rice, you know, uh, you know, cabbage, lettuce, vegetables, meat. Now, you have to remember a lot of women don't even cook. So this would be very intriguing because they would end up in a situation where they'd be completely pissed off. They can't buy all the salty and sugary things that they enjoy, even the like, sugary drinks and stuff like that. And if they want those kinds of things, they would have to go and find a man to provide those things to them. And as we can see, that's what they're also trying to do with this, with food, with that's what they're trying to do now with the money women would receive from child support, where it would go into a card, and they would not be able to spend it on things like Oreos or chips or stuff like that. It would just basically be healthy food. If they need to pay for things like a child's tuition, that would also have to be used from that card. They would lose access. They would no longer be able to spend that money however they choose to. It would basically cut back on a lot of fraud, and it would be very interesting. Women don't realize just how much they've lost at this point, because men are not going to come back to the relationship. Even if the laws change and make life better for men in Western society, men are gone for good. We're heading into extremely hard economic times, and that's why I keep on warning you guys to wake up and realize that if you don't take action soon, you're going to get left behind. you know and I've told you plenty of times that this thing is going to be much worse than the Great Recession was. The ATMs are going to freeze, the banks are going to shut their doors, and you should already realize that your wealth is 100% in jeopardy. And that's why you can discover how to safeguard your assets with crypto. And at Angry's Crypto Academy, you'll learn how to buy, sell, trade, and invest in the most secure coins. Discover discover the dark horse crypto that virtually no one is talking about, which will mint you millionaires in the upcoming bull run. You can click the link in the description of the video below to find out what this crypto is and join the academy today.
Well, states just wasted a lot of that money. They built roads because they were used too much during the pandemic. They built bridges, and they renamed stadiums and different monuments and did all this other stuff, right? And relocated federal buildings and whatever. And they did all this stuff on our taxpayer dollars. Now what Trump is saying is we are gonna claw that money back. That was spent illegally. There was so much fraud and abuse and wasteful spending that we're gonna end this right now. Well, here's what's going on. I want to read this to you. It says Donald Trump announced the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple: to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay. It says, in other words, America will raise so much money from President Donald Trump's tariff plan that Americans will no longer need to pay income taxes. Okay, let that sink in. We may not have to pay income taxes because we're going to get so much money from tariffs. Look at this. It says it sounds great, but it's riddled with problems. America raises about $3 trillion each year from income taxes. The United States also happens to import around $3 trillion worth of goods annually, meaning tariffs would have to be at least 100% on all imported goods for tariffs to replace income taxes. And it would have to exceed 100% in order for us to actually have additional money. Here's where it all ties in. We are now starting to see that the federal government doesn't need trillions of dollars to run every single year. We've been operating at a deficit. So if we can reduce the amount of money that the federal government spends every single year, then we don't need to actually tax that much. So again, we bring in about $3 trillion each year on taxes. Well, if we are not spending all that money, we don't need to produce that money. We could continue to have a smaller tax rate, tax just the people that make over, let's say, $50,000 per year, and everyone else you get pretty much that money free and clear. Right? There's so many different ideas being floated around. But again, I bring this to your attention because if we are seeing Doge uncover all this fraud and abuse and wasteful spending, and we can cut more than $2 trillion in federal spending without getting rid of Social Security, SNAP benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, right? All these other welfare programs. If we can do this, we could be very successful. But again, it's going to create, and we have to establish a massive overhaul of our current federal government. This includes the IRS. So with there being 6,700 IRS agents that were just let go today, many people are wondering, well, is this going to mean I don't get my taxes on time? If I file today, I'm just not going to get my taxes? No. I want to read this to you. Okay? It says the IRS fired 6,700 employees on Thursday. says the employees were designated as probationary, meaning they were working for the agency on a trial basis prior to becoming full staff members. It says more than 5,000 of the fired staff members were auditors and collection staff dealing with tax compliance issues. Okay? So, not exactly what we were thinking. Now, I want to give you one last thing. These changes to the IRS, they will impact us. Now, I don't know if we're going to see less audits. I don't know if we're going to see, the wealthy get targeted, okay, or the lower income households. I just don't know. But what I can tell you is if we start to see more success from the Department of Government Efficiency and the Trump administration, like we've been seeing over the past several weeks, that's going to create massive changes. The IRS is going to see a massive overhaul, which they're already going through. We could see the end of the IRS very soon, which means we do not pay any federal income taxes. And then we could also see that money come back to us in the form of a rebate check based off of all the additional money that we've actually spent. But get this, according to a report out this morning, if we have this success, okay, and we eliminate the IRS, we abolish the IRS, we eliminate federal income taxes. But if the American people are buying so much inventory and goods and all this stuff from other countries, and the tariffs are through the roof, we spend an excess amount of money on tariffs, right? What could happen is the Trump administration could use, and again, these numbers are just pretty much made up, okay? But what if we have, let's say, $500 billion in excess funding, okay? A surplus is $500 billion at the end of the year from what we need versus what we brought in from revenue from tariffs. What could then happen is the American people could get a rebate check, let's say 50%, and the federal government takes the other 50% and they pay down our federal deficit. That would mean $250 billion to the American people, $250 billion to the federal government to pay down our debts. Again, I'm just throwing that out there, those numbers of 50%. But there's a report this morning that that is potentially what the Trump administration is aiming for. So we'll see what happens moving forward.
Now, here's the really interesting thing about this. The very notion that, you know, we could collect this could be a yearly and annual thing is pretty unbelievable. So evidently, the plan right now is that this would affect taxpayers in the year of so people who pay taxes in tax year 2025 would end up getting that rebate potentially in 2026. So you would get that $5,000 check that are up to $5,000 that's being proposed, which is just absolutely massive. And if this is, it's the potential here is that it could be a yearly basis. So if Trump is in office for the next 4 years, and keep in mind, there's also talk of there was talk at CPAC of him possibly going for another term. Whether or not that can actually happen, I don't know. But the reality is that as a result of Trump's actions, we could see for potentially the next 4 years, 3 to 4 years, tax rebates of $5,000 or up to $5,000 a year, which means that as a result of Trump's actions, we can potentially collect anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 under Trump's administration. So the average working class person who's actually paying income taxes, so you've actually paid income taxes, you could see $15,000 to $20,000 that Trump puts into your pocket, and on top of that, he's eliminated, and then on top of that, on top of all of this, eventually, you know, we could see income taxes eliminated entirely, but still, there's that potential for the rebate. And that's where things get very interesting. Can you imagine saying, wow, under Trump, I got $20,000. I collected $20,000 under the Trump administration. He got rid of federal income taxes for most people, right? And and maybe even other taxes like property taxes vanished as well. And I made a lot of money under Trump because I think that's where things are heading right now. I think that the changes that Trump is making are going to lead to extraordinary opportunities for people who are working class, but it's going to also lead to it's going to lead to hardships and disparities for people who are basically trying to just live off entitlements like Social Security and welfare. I think there can be some extreme hardships there. I know right now the boomers are probably salivating, thinking that any extra money that's saved should be placed into Social Security because they've only ever cared about themselves, and they're the reasons why we are experiencing so much economic hardship. But do you agree that this could save society? This could result in, you know, this could actually result in a lot of economic activity. It could result in the creation of new jobs potentially. It could definitely boost the it could definitely have substantial benefits. Let me know your thoughts. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA men walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.